Hello? Well, I'm going to be very transparent with you. We haven't talked in a very, very long time. Um, I can vaguely remember your name, but a lot has happened since we talked the last time. So if I don't remember your favorite food, don't take it personal, if possible. Hmm. Yeah, it's just a very, very long time. Jesus. But yeah, it's good to see you again, at least. I think we can kind of skip the basics, the whole stuff. Try to take notes. If you have any questions, you can always DM me, yada yada. I think it's better if we just get into, the actual meat and gravy and potatoes. So you already sent me the VOD. We're gonna go over the VOD in a second. Um, I checked the VOD a little bit. It's a good VOD, mainly because it's the same meta that pro teams are playing, so it's very easy for me to kind of just figure out what's going wrong and I can help you out. Um, Before we actually do that, I want to go over some other stuff just to kind of catch up so that I can make sure that I know where you're standing exactly. So I'm just gonna read most of this just so we're on the same page. First question that I have is you mentioned that you just want to improve and learn more about the game. um, that's a good thing to do. That's not a goal. So, what are you trying to improve for? So, you enjoy the process of improving, but you're improving for no particular reason. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Previously had a session. What's that? Oh, okay. Hmm. No, that's good. That's good. Previously had a session when I was a Silver Ryan. After your session and watching coaching reviews, I learned a bunch about the game and tried to learn the little tips of each of my main characters. I also got pretty serious about the game and went from playing quick play all the time to basically playing exclusively comp. It's a very good step in the right direction. Um, I mean, you can't really climb if you don't play comp. Do you remember how long the first session was ago? Do you know how long ago the first session was? So I know the time frame. Okay, so less than a year. Okay. This saw me go from low silver to low plat. Realistically, I think my true SR probably sits at around high gold or so. That's not how true SR works. Like SR is SR. Hmm. Yes, the classic. Well, if you're 2825, then you are not a gold player. So you said maybe I have imposter syndrome, but I'm not sure if my skills and knowledge are quite high enough to be in plat despite my ranking. Typically, games in high gold feel comfortable, and any games in mid gold seem pretty easy. The game isn't supposed to feel comfortable. Comfortable is synonymous for boring. So if the games in gold are boring, then that means you're better than that. Um, so yeah, like don't worry about not belonging in a rating you're at, especially about the rating that you're in, right? If you're like in, GM, and then you drop down to diamond like a week later, then maybe you just had, some good time. But platinum is not really something you should get, imposter syndrome about. It's not really that so don't not to be toxic, but like it's not as big of a deal, right? So you're starting to become above average. Essentially, you're starting to become better than the average player. Okay, my game sense probably needs to improve a fair bit. I'll try my best, but I can struggle understanding my team's positioning and what tools we have to secure an advantage. I also struggle knowing how to engage in hard chokes, and I often lack awareness of enemy CC and how that may impact my playstyle, i.e., sometimes forget there's a brig next to me when I go to shatter and she stuns me. Okay. Um, that's something I'm going to address more specifically in the VoD because that sounds less like being aware of CC and more so just hesitating too much, which would also be in line with your kind of imposter syndrome thingamajigs. Your Overwatch idol, Gastron and Gouge are very awesome. I also watched Color Hex play live for Sydney Droppers at the Contender season final in 2018, just after it was announced that he got signed to Boston. He played like crazy in that final. Well, then Goats happened, and he became one of the worst Zarias in Overwatch League. So um, that probably was. But then again, now it's DPS meta again, and he's doing a little bit better. Still not great. I think Color Hex is like fine. It's probably not one of the best DPS, but yeah, he's pretty solid as a DPS. Um, mhm. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Also a punk on Uprising Academy. I worked with him before, so even more down under representation. Not warming up makes sense as a main tank. You asked what you should record to, what you should use to record your VOD. What do you use right now? Shadowplay? What are your settings? What your Overwatch settings? What were they set to before? Okay. You said you have a 240 hertz monitor, right? What do you mean you think so? Okay, that's very important information. Do you know the model number? Like if it's somewhere on the, no, no, if it's somewhere on the monitor, maybe. Like mine has it on the top right, for example. I don't know if yours is similar. What brand? It's a high-end Asus. Mhm. Okay, because I doubt that it's 240. I think it's 165, and I want to see because it's pretty important because it affects your settings. I have one right now. It sucks for gaming, or like it sucks for competitive gaming, but it's great for everything else. Mm-hmm. Okay. 3.5 grand. Jesus, was about to say. Okay. You can call me a god now if you want to for getting that right. Okay, I'm just kidding. No, the reason I'm saying this is because your VOD is in 1440p. 1440p 240 hertz doesn't exist. And the only monitors that I know that have 1414p at high resolution refresh rates are monitors that use 165 hertz. So um, the reason I'm saying this is because you are recording at 1440p at 60 FPS, right? So your bit rate, what is your bit rate that you record with? It's in your shadow play settings. And you're wondering why it's lagging. Okay. So what's the lowest you can put that? Can you put it at 10? And can you put the resolution down to 1080p? Because why in the world would you need to record at 1440p? Okay, good. 1080p, 60 FPS, 10K bitrate. You're going to have a hard time noticing a difference in terms of quality, but it's going to be a billion times easier for your computer to record. Like, I'm not even over exaggerating. Especially if you play at 165 hertz, you really need like consistent frame rate. And if you're recording at those settings, you're just screwing yourself over. Yeah. Now you should be able to just record live if you want to. You don't have to, of course, but yeah, actually, honestly, recording it off the replay system is better because then I can see all of the values at the top. Good. Now, well, yeah, but that's more for like team play. At Plet, that's not really a huge priority for you. I need you to ask any questions you might have while I set up the VoD. Okay. So that's something we need to talk about. What do you mean you wanted to play Ryan? Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the problem is you can't just play whatever you want to play, unfortunately. You need to play what your team needs you to play. Yeah, no, I'm just saying that right now, the meta is Orisa. A lot of Orisa. So you can't really play Ryan. The only situation where you play Ryan right now is for full-on like int compositions. No, 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 no. Like I'm talking like on Legion Control Center, for example, some teams play like Reinhardt Reaper and just run into people. So on this map already, you rolling out. By the way, can you see the VoD? Okay, awesome. So you rolling out with Reinhardt is not a smart choice because look at the enemy team comp. Okay, this team comp is being run a lot. What is one of the team comp's strengths? Mm-hmm. What is Roadhog and Hanzo? What are they very good at? No, I mean yeah, but it's like one of their main strengths. Well, yeah, but I'm asking both Hog and Hanzo. Third time's a charm? Yeah, there we go. Very nice. Shield break. What do you think the enemy team is going to do to your Reinhardt shield? What are you going to do with a demolished Reinhardt shield? Okay. How is that going to win you the game? Just look at your shield. Like you literally can't even hold it. Like you're being useless right now. You're being useless beyond belief. So playing Reinhardt here is essentially feeding. Reinhardt against shield break just doesn't work. You have to play Orisa. Because your team comes shield break isn't actually that bad. Like Junkrat is phenomenal, McCree is pretty good. Widow isn't the best at shield break, but the enemy team now have a Widow as well, so you know, they're essentially even. And yep, that is exactly what you're not supposed to do. What happens if you drop your shield here? Okay. What happens to the enemy shield? Well, no, it's going to get destroyed as well. Right? Both shields are going to get destroyed, right? But what's going to happen after both shields get destroyed? No. What advantage does the enemy Orisa have over you right now? No. Nope. What's the difference between her shield and yours? What does it mean? She's gonna have it faster. Okay. So after both shields break, what is she going to do that you can't do? Okay. So what happens if she has a shield and you don't have a shield? Okay, good. You're gonna die. Now, I'm just gonna look at this team fight because I want to see what happens. Both shields are down. She plops down a new shield. You don't have a shield. You have to run away. I can tell the future. Okay. Now, in that same vein, let's try to figure out what exactly you could have done differently to prevent this situation and actually get an advantage. Okay, so step one is destroy their shield. Okay. What happens after their shield is getting destroyed? Well, the problem is if you place your shield down immediately after, she's also going to drop her shield. So at that point, you guys are even. So how can you actually get an advantage instead of just going even? So doing what you just said is much better than what you did here. But how can you make it even better? No, you can't really use pull. You use pull to pull people above the Orisa shield. You don't use it to pull them like through it. Okay. So what you can do is you wait until their shield breaks and she drops a new one. Once she drops a new one, you try to break that shield as quickly as possible. Okay. And this is where it depends on the situation. If you have a team that is very good at breaking the shield quickly, you want to drop your shield after it breaks. But if the enemy shield doesn't break very quickly, you want to drop your shield after like 2 seconds. Because she drops down a shield, you destroy it, and then you go around the corner and drop your shield. So now your teammates can peek behind your shield while the enemy team doesn't have a shield. So you actually have a shield advantage. Okay. So what you do is you wait until the enemy Orisa shield goes down. You wait until she places a new one. After she places a new one, you count to 2 and then you drop yours. Okay. So you don't do that. By the way, the same thought process also applies to things like Zarya bubbles, right? So right here, you end up getting a shield advantage because you used it earlier like than them in the previous shield drop. But the problem is that even though you have an advantage now, by now your team can already lose the fight. Right? It's more important to have the shield advantage at the start of the fight than to have it in the middle of the fight. Now, what's the problem with this shield right here? The one that you just put down? Yeah. Okay. Think about the positioning of the shield. Okay. So the problem with the shield is that it's kind of difficult for your teammates to actually use it because it's too far forward. Right now your shield is over here and it's blocking like this, right? Ideally, you want to have your shield over there so it touches this corner and then goes forward like this. Because if your shield is closer to your team, then it blocks like a larger area, right? So, okay, yellow, let's say your teammate is yellow and there are 2 shields. One is very close and one is very far, right? The one that's very far blocks a smaller area than the one that's very close. Simple geometry, right? Good. So yeah, you don't want to push them too far forward. The only time you make them place them further forward is if you're confident that your teammates can actually play around it. So this shield is a little bit better because you're playing right next to it. Although again, you still want to avoid having your shield in the wall. So you place it too close to the wall, so it actually cuts into the wall to the left. You want to place it further to the right. Exactly. But yeah, other than that, 3-time teamfight win. Very nice. Why did you run in there? Okay, never do this, you're not a DPS. Never. Running past the Orisa shield is suicide. And you dying... As a main tank, dying is the worst. Like, it can genuinely throw a team fight. In this case, it was a pretty safe win already, so there wasn't as much to lose, but you need to be very, very, very careful. If you make one mistake, you're gonna get punished so freaking hard. Okay. Now, this is kind of boring, because you're just, you know, standing on the card, not really doing much. And you want to be careful about putting your shield as far forward, okay? It doesn't block a lot because it's so far forward, and it's not going to help you once the card pushes past, right? And look, the card is... Like, now the shield is useless. And you still have your current shield on cooldown. Okay. Another thing is, especially when you're playing with a comp that has snipers on it, or like a Roadhog, you want to use your hold as... Oh shit. You want to use your hold as often as you can. Because every single hold is an opportunity for your team to get a pick. Also, why aren't you shooting the shield? Like right here, why do you ignore it? When you're in Platinum, your first focus should be playing well, and comms comes secondary. Okay? Because no amount of comms is going to change the fact that your shield broke much faster than theirs. Okay. Now, another thing that's very important as Orisa is natural cover. So you always need to make sure that while obviously having your shield is nice, you also want to have some sort of natural cover to play around. In this case, it's a little bit rough because you lost your McCree, but it's a little bit safer to play closer to the right side, so you can hide behind the haystacks and kind of go behind this wall, rather than hiding on the cart. And again, if you can't take space, it's fine to play a little bit further back. In this case, the enemy team just has a lot more shield break. Like, Roadhog, how much damage do you think Roadhog can deal in like 3 seconds? Okay, I'm gonna rock your world. It's 750. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage because of that, unfortunately. Because of that disadvantage, you can also consider going Winston here. So the enemy team, they have an Ana, they have a Zen, they have a Widowmaker. So there's a lot of targets that you could, you know, theoretically go for. Again, your team comp doesn't really enable it too much, but you know, just in case you can't get a lot of value out of it, then it's like a good swap. What was that right click? And again, why aren't you shooting? Oh, like right here, there's a shield in front of you. Why aren't you shooting? Well, yeah, you. But what about your team? Your teammates don't have Fortify and 200 armor, right? And yeah, what was that halt? Like the pull? doesn't work. It doesn't go through shields. Well, I mean, you just detonated it like too soon, and you shot it super low. Like that wasn't even an attempt at shooting it upwards. Okay. Going to the right to drop your ultimate to land the wall is very nice. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Your McCree got a lot of value there. You're actually playing with pretty good DPS players, which is nice. Okay. So what should you be doing here? Okay. What did I mention earlier about the Orisa shields when the enemy Orisa was defending the first point? Okay, what was the advantage? Uh-huh. Okay. Why did she have that advantage? Uh-huh. Okay. So just watch this. Do you notice anything? What happens if the Orisa breaks your shield? Okay. But on the first point, the enemy Orisa, she placed a new shield immediately after you destroyed hers. How did she do that? Because she already put it down. So why did you not put one down? Right, it's your big advantage. You can literally have double the shield, but instead you place it down at the exact same time as her. And you need to pull above the shield, not to the side, not in front of it, above. So this shield here was actually very good, right? So instead of flipping it down immediately, you wait until theirs is destroyed, and then you drop down yours, and that's how you got the kill on the Orisa. So that was actually a very nice shield. Again, the enemy team is using a billion different ultimates, so it's fine that you lose the fight, but in terms of shields, again, the only problem is that you messed up your shield at the start. It's just something to be aware of. Okay, why are you on Reinhardt again? Doesn't matter. Okay, you're not a Reinhardt player. You have to understand. You're a main tank. No, you're not an Orisa player either. You're a main tank. Okay, if I call a paramedic, okay, and you know, and he needs to like put in like an IV onto some person, right? He's not gonna go, oh, I'm actually not the IV guy, you know, I'm the EKG guy, you know, I put like the little electrode shits, right? Or you know, oh yeah, I'm like the chest compression guy, right? No, he's the paramedic. He has all of these different tools, and his job is to diagnose the patient and then figure out what needs to be done. He's not always going to pull out the defibrillator because he's most comfortable with the fucking defibrillator. He does that, people are gonna die. Okay. But you don't even have a Lucio. How are you supposed to get to her? Right? You're a main tank. It is your responsibility. When I look for a main tank, then I want someone that can look at the situation and find the right tool for the job. Reinhardt is not the right tool for this job. Like, what are you supposed to do there? If you hold up your shield, it's gonna go down in a second. If you don't hold up your shield, you die. So what value were you providing your team with? Absolutely nothing. Okay, against shield break comps, you're essentially forced to either play Orisa, so you have enough shields to deal with their shield break, or Winston, and you try to just ignore their shield. But yeah, the value that you're getting here is limited. And so the shield starts breaking. Hopla! It's at half HP already. Just one rotation. You're nowhere near the card. Ooh, I want to see what happens to your shield here. Like you just can't push up. When your McCree got a pick, your McCree got 2 picks. So now, just because the only reason your shield isn't breaking here is because the enemy team is dead. You didn't actually start holding up your shield until the fight was already won, and you weren't anywhere near the payload until the fight was won. So ergo, you won the team fight, but you didn't actually do anything. But okay, 3rd point, here we come. Interesting pin. A little bit questionable, slightly risky, but okay. The enemy team is feeding a little bit right now, which is good for you, obviously. Yeah, you're not really Ooh, huge shatter. Big boy play, I like it. That's it though, something you can't really do at higher ranks. What would have happened in a higher ranked game? Orisa press shift, which protects the 2 teammates behind her, and the Zenyatta would probably just press trans. So, a little bit risky. But I mean, you know, it works. Why these pins? Why the pins are... Okay. And at this point, you're really just playing DPS Reinhardt. Which, you know, like, it worked, but you weren't really able to do your job. And not being able to do your job, again, isn't always, you know, just skill-based. It's not always because you're just playing poorly. In that case, Reinhardt just can't really be effective as Reinhardt. But okay. You have a very nice meta comp this time, which is good. As Orisa, you need to pre-fire. And again, you dropped your shield very late. Just drop it as soon as you possibly can. Hold down that left click. So against this comp, you can use your pull to pull them back, because whenever you pull them back, that gives you more time to get down the Reinhardt shield. So yeah, again, you really just want to use it on cooldown, pretty much. Just play by the enemy Reinhardt, feeds. I mean, yeah, again, no offense to the enemy team, but their comp makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. What was that shield? Yeah, that's 8 seconds in which you're... Oh no, don't go high ground. What are you doing? You're Orisa! Why are you 1v1ing a Widowmaker? Oh my god. Focus on your shields. You just baited the Zen so hard. Well, either way, you're shooting the shield. The enemy team can still make... It's incredible that they're making the same mistake you made. Huge mistake. You could have used your pull to like try to pull them into it, but no way. Again, the shield here is like okay. The enemy team is kind of splitting, which is obviously bad. They should just stay together. But yeah, right now you're not playing bad. You're not playing good, you're just doing your job. Well, I mean, I guess doing your job is good. So like, you're playing well right now, but the enemy team isn't really making your life very difficult. Stop typing! How can you... How... Oh! I was so confused! Oh my god. I was like, wait, what the hell? How are you typing when shooting and aiming? Like, again, you're breaking the shield, which is really good. Ideally, you wanted to pull a little bit earlier, so you could have gotten more damage into the Reinhardt. Good placing your shield, nice and early. Good supercharger. I mean, again, the enemy team comp is hilariously stupid. Very risky not to drop, not to place your shield earlier there. It's a good pull. Oh, Jesus, okay. Okay, yeah, you didn't have your shield available. That's just on your mate. So she got to pull there. I mean, she got twice. You're Orisa, you're not supposed to focus anything. You're just supposed to spam shields and right clicks and try not to die. Okay. I want to figure out if there's something that you could have done to save them. The only thing that you could have realistically done, you couldn't have blocked her because that doesn't you couldn't have like shielded her because the pin doesn't care about the shield. The only thing you could have done is you could have known that the Reinhardt has Shatter and then try to stand in front of him and fortify the Shatter. Although again, it's not quite sure whether that would have really been possible. I want to see why why the fight isn't won. Oh, wait. Oh, no. What? Do you notice something? I mean, that's good for the Zen, but that's not what I'm referring to. What do you notice? Well, yeah, but you can just place a new one. Do you notice anything about your ultimate? What does that ultimate do? Literally anyone that plays past this line can't do anything with that ultimate. Right? And now, that is a big problem, because these people are trying to kill people. But and having your ultimate could have been very, very useful. Like, do you see the Reinhardt? He could be dead. But you're damage boosting like a Zen and a Mercy. Right? So, yeah, your ultimate was well timed, but horrendously placed. Yeah, don't worry about placing your supercharger behind your shield either. You don't always have to place it behind naturally. So yeah, you could have either tried to fortify the Reinhardt Shatter to save your Mei, or you should have placed your supercharger in a position where it would actually do something. Because that supercharger was incredibly useless. Okay, but you know, mistakes happen. Let's go to the next fight. Oh no, why are you on Reinhardt? Why did you think Orisa was bad?
Enemy turret destroyed.
What do you weren't doing much? You were doing your job. That's all that matters. So now you're just kind of matching the enemy's stupidity. Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, the enemy team comp just makes... neither of them make any sense. The enemy team comp just makes a little bit more sense. No, but yeah, Reinhardt, not the play. I mean, maybe you can make it work. Yeah, you play Reinhardt with comps that have Lucio, and then try to like go in. Reinhardt she was just too good. Yes, yeah, like you were getting value blocking that Reaper ultimate, but the problem is that now you don't have a shield, so that very easy. And again, the enemy team has a Roadhog. Do you have a Roadhog? Nope. 750 damage in 3 seconds. You cannot deal or compete with that. You not having a shield wouldn't be as bad if the enemy Reinhardt also didn't have a shield, but your shield damage. How much damage, like shield damage, is a Doomfist or a Mei, or a Zarya, or a Mercy? They have a Torb, they have a Reaper, they have a Roadhog. They're drowning in shield damage. Okay, obviously missing the Shatter isn't great, but I don't think it would have made a great difference. It's just much easier for the Reinhardt to get value. Yeah. If you don't have a shield, then there's nothing stopping the enemy team from shooting your team, so they get ultimates faster, and then they win fights with ultimates. Ay, ay, ay. And again, I don't like saying, oh, you played this character, so there's nothing you could have done. Especially considering the enemy, you know, always also played Reinhardt, but you're just making the game much more difficult than it has to be. You would have to play, like, very aggressive and almost suicidally just to get value out of Ryan here, where you essentially ignore your shield and you just try to play super, super aggro. Yeah. And your team also end up switching comps consistently, like they constantly switch characters. And the reason that's bad is because it resets ultimates. So the enemy team just keeps throwing ultimates at your team while you don't really have ultimates to throw at them. But okay, you open up with Orisa. It seems like you couldn't really make up your mind this round. Yeah. The problem is just that during this game you kept alternating and alternating and you never really knew what the correct pick was. Okay. Huge Mei wall. Again, go for pulls. Don't be greedy with your pulls. There's nothing to wait for. In like coordinated teams, you can wait for rotor hooks, but against this comp, you really just want to spam it. Now, let's talk about positioning real quick. What I mentioned earlier is that you want to... Okay, so first of all, what's the problem with this shield? Yeah. Yeah. Half of it is behind a wall, so that's bad. It's also like a little bit forward. Against Reinhardt, do you want to keep your distance or do you want to get close and personal? So why do you put your shield up so far forward? You make space by breaking the enemy Rein shield and then pushing into him. If you run into a Reinhardt like this, you're gonna die. Which is precisely what happens here. You just get Mei walled off, and then you get swung in, and then you get Roadhog hooked, and at this point it's already too late, and you're dead. And again, the main tank dying is the worst thing that can happen. So all you had to do there was abuse your distance, right? The enemy Reinhardt can't do anything at a distance. Abuse your distance, spam down their shield, and at that point the Reinhardt becomes completely useless. But despite you being relatively unimpactful last fight, your teammates still make up for it. So, also the VoD is lagging. Okay, this is, I guess it works now. Let me go back a little. I'm gonna see if there's me or the VoD lagging. Okay, there's me lagging. Again, why are you running into them like this? Why don't you stay behind your shield? Like when you run, what does like when you're running into the enemy team and you place a shield like this, what does that do? Right? You need to stay in a stable position where your teammates can actually benefit from you. So yeah, honestly, that was very, very free. You just kind of, yeah, again, like you just said, why did you switch to? Okay, whatever. Why would you switch to McCree to stall in overtime? Okay, you go Hammond in overtime situations. But okay, I mean, so far, so the same. Like, I know it's just the same stuff over and over again, but that's the problem with plat games. Split games are really just the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. Like, you really need to familiarize yourself with how shield break works and how important it is to understand these matchups. Because then you could have known, hey, the enemy team, you know, we have a lot of shield break, right? So I can just go Orisa. And how do I play this? Okay, I need to focus on breaking the shield. So I want to keep my distance. You're not supposed to think of it in-game, you're supposed to think of it before the game. In-game, you only make the decisions, but actually coming to those conclusions is something you do after. Pretty good. The enemy team is playing Ryan, which again is kind of stupid, but yeah, I guess if they want to. I love the Bastion pick also. Okay, so this is one of the situations where running in front of your shield was acceptable because you tried body blocking your Bastion. So that was a really, really good play. And yeah, that probably won you the team fight actually, because I'm not sure if your Bastion... Actually, he got immortality fielded. Yeah, so... You're shooting the shield. This time you have a Roadhog as well. Again, I think you're overestimating the right-click range a little bit, but, you know, doesn't matter. Like, the enemy team is kind of feeding. Okay. How much... I want to see how much time you spent with your Hog off. Yeah, again, your right-click, especially against the Reinhardt, is just something you want to use continuously. Because it gets them out of melee range, so they can't really do anything. Also, don't hesitate replacing your shield. Like, even though your current shield is still up, placing one in front of you is just useful. A huge ulti. Use your ulti. What are you waiting for? Why aren't you ulting? There we go. That took long. And again, you have this habit of running into them. Why are you running into them? As Orisa, you want to fall backwards. It's called kiting. Right, kite backwards to stabilize. Ideally, you want to stabilize into the cafe there, like into the little building. Also makes it easier to res. So yeah, honestly, you play that defense fine for the most part. One thing you can actually do is, if they go through that alley and they move towards the right side, you don't even necessarily have to meet them there. What you can also do is, you can play further back and you can mirror. So you play on the left side of the point, right? And you actually, like, you play the left edge of the point, right? So you can still... I can take a screenshot, 1 second. I don't want this to like be confusing, so I'm just gonna take a picture so it's clear. Let me open this up real quick. Playing Hollywood. There we go. So it's a little bit difficult because it doesn't show you like how far the point extends. But usually you would play right here, and the shield is a little like this. So if you check your Discord DMs, it's uploading. There we go. So you play that corner. So they have to run all the way across the point and all the way around the cart in order to get to you. Because what ended up happening is they just walked up those stairs and then rushed into you. And that area up there, there's the boxes, there's the trash can, and there's a payload. That area is very narrow, right? So if you're fighting, I'm going to try to see if I can color this in. So this is an obstacle. These boxes are an obstacle. The payload is an obstacle. This building is an obstacle. This is an obstacle, right? So this area up here, it's like full of stuff that they can press you against. It's very close quarters, right? But if you look at the area in the bottom, that area is essentially completely free. It's very open, right? So yeah, that just, again, makes it easier for your DPS players to position. Okay. Do you have any questions? You want me to like explain it again? Oh, okay. Yep. In general, just understanding whether you're a comp that kind of wants to run into the enemy team or that it wants to abuse its range. I mean, it's pretty much it. Most of it is just understanding what each main tank does in each matchup, what the strengths and weaknesses are, and then picking the appropriate one. Like the biggest issue really was going around and saying, "Hey, I'm going to play Reinhardt in this matchup," because obviously, you know, only with like YOLO swag comps where you just run into the enemy team like a madman. With a comp that has any sort of range, it's not really worth it. Yeah, mainly because right now a lot of teams, or even in solo queue, a lot of people are running Orisa Hog, and Roadhog is. I mean, you're a Winston player. You should know that playing against a Hog is a little troublesome. Yeah, it's pretty rough. So yeah, yeah. You want to hold wherever the enemy team has to walk the longest distance. Um, no, so what I mean by longest distance is longest distance to you, right? So the reason that they play on high ground, top left high ground on Blizzard World, the reason that you play there is because in order for the enemy team to actually get to you, they would have to walk all the way up to you, right? Um, Whereas if you play right next to the point, they want to get to the point anyways, so they don't really have to get out of their way, right? So it's just much, 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 much safer. And again, high ground in general is just very strong. On Hollywood, you don't want to hold there because holding the high ground is very awkward. Because it's difficult for the enemy team, or like it's difficult for your team to really break their shield, and chances are they're just going to go around and say, hey, you know, like whenever you can't really get good pulls off as Orisa at these like long, like very very long distances, right? So it just doesn't work very well with your team. You also deal with fall off damage and all of that stuff. So yeah, you hold that corner there, and on Blizzard World you hold the high ground. Okay, awesome. Then I think we're done here. If you have any questions, you can always just message me. You know that drill. Also, you can go to this page and leave a review, which is always much appreciated. And I think we're done. So okay, okay, no problem. I wish you the best of luck, man. Have a good one.